Friday night lights at the Brick Community Stadium this week for your game of the week, Wigan Warriors versus the Leeds Rhinos. Now, this is a massive game for both teams. This is an audition. It's an audition of two parts. One, it's an audition for the grand final. Leeds flying higher than than in the past 10 years, I think. Wigan flying higher than they have in the past 10 weeks, having just made it into the Challenge Cup final. So it's an audition for the grand final. It's also, for two players on the field, an audition for Brian McDermott's England squad. That's right. On show on Friday, we've got two of the best, maybe the two best scrum halves in Super League going head to head. Excellent. Now, I've said a lot about Harry Smith this week. I also often say a lot about Jake Connor. They're the generals behind these teams. Even when Bevan French is on the field, Harry Smith is kind of the one pulling the strings, and French is kind of on the fringes. Jake Connor, since he's come into Leeds, has absolutely transformed his game. He is at the helm. So we've got two absolute leader scrum halves who both go about their business a little bit differently. I mean, they kind of look alike. Jake Connor kind of looks a little bit like Harry Smith sort of took the Nutty Professor serum, He's sort of, Jake Connor's got that cool beard. He probably pays for his haircuts, that he's got that swagger about him. He gets in your face. And that is really reflects how each player plays the game. Harry Smith, a bit more subdued, sort of tactical thinking, strategic. Jake Connor, in your face. Yes, very skillful, but quite brash, not scared of having a go at the ref, puts the ball wherever he wants, makes it look easy. On paper, they're sort of there or thereabouts with everything, meters, carries, number of kicks. Harry Smith actually probably pips Connor in a couple of these battle areas. Try assist, not try assist, tries. He scores a little bit more often, has more offloads, more tackle busts, does more work in defence. So that kind of, to me, when I looked at the stats, I was sort of surprised, and I guess again, it's just reflective of this sort of persona that Connor has. He makes you think he's the biggest man in the world. Whereas Harry Smith sort of just goes quietly under the radar and is actually pipping him in a couple of stats. Now, how these players control their team is sort of indicative of how each team plays. If we look at the stats generally across the season, obviously Leeds do much better in the league position as it is. That they are top, and Wigan are sort of languishing a little bit just outside the top four. But look at the key stats here. So Leeds dominating meters, runs from dummy half, tackles. Sorry, carries, not tackles. So, having more possession, further up the field, more often, pushing. Wigan, whilst they're winning, are sort of doing so quietly. And the reason for that sort of lies within the team structure as well. So if you look at who does the most work in each team, the back line for Leeds has all five of those players, and they do have all five of them, 1 to 5 available. If you average out their meters across a game, it comes out at above 120 meters for all of them. And that's even, now they've got Harry Newman back in there, who, is replacing Jack Bird. Don't know why, injury or ban. It could be either for that guy. But they're all up at 120 metres. The Wigan back line, I've got J Field, and that's it. The only guy to average over 100 metres a game is J Field. Now, he bosses it. He's about 150 metres. But it kind of goes to show that sort of get in their face, brash, just rub their nose in it mentality that Leeds have, that Connor has, it all comes from the back. Sivo's dominating tries, Miller's dominating everything, Man of Steel, all that. If you look at the forwards, though, now bear in mind that the forwards on both these teams aren't 60-minute forwards necessarily. All right, Junior December, yes. But most of the Wigan forwards are kind of knocking on 100 metres a game, which is mad. The Leeds forwards are down at about 75, which means that the 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 Wigan forwards are doing about 25% more work than the Leeds forwards, which is interesting because you think about how that compares. The back line is on there all game, working hard. The forwards, though, if your forwards can work harder than the other teams, they get refreshed. They get cycled in and out typically. They get fresh legs every 20 minutes or so. So if you've got people working hard and staying fresh, that is a recipe for success for Wigan. And that's how I think both teams are gonna play it really. Leeds sharpshooting down, get in your face. Those hanging kicks from Jake Connor. I wish I had a stat on how long his kicks spend in the air. Harry Smith, however, tactically just placing the ball where he needs it to get his forwards into position to do the work. Now, who's going to come out on top? I think it's Leeds. Now, that doesn't mean that Wigan are done. It doesn't mean they're a one-trick pony. It doesn't mean that they're finished for the season. I just think that given all that, given the amount of work that those backs can and will do, and the way that Smith likes to kick into corners and try to restrict those meters all over the field, I just think it's a bad matchup and it's a bad time for Wigan to be playing Leeds. Now, if these two meet in the grand final, it might be a different story. But tomorrow, at the Brit Community Stadium, I think Leeds are probably going to cause Wigan's third home loss of the season. What do you think? Who takes it? You know what? What do you think of Sivo? Because he's doing the meters, he's scoring the tries, but I feel like they're not really his tries. Anyway, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, enjoy the rugger.